called to order. The return of the warrant shows that it has been properly served. They said it was working. The meeting is called to order. The return of the warrant shows that it has been properly served. Our first order of business is to elect a Hello? I am. Okay. The first order of business is to elect a moderator for this special town meeting. Where's Wayne?
I still can't hear you.
Can you hear me, Wayne? May I call for nominations? Wayne?
I nominate Dick O'Brien for moderator.
Do I hear a second?
I second that nomination.
All those in favor of electing Mr. O'Brien, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Mr. O'Brien is elected. All nominations are closed, and Mr. O'Brien is elected as moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like first to begin by welcoming all of you to this meeting. I want to ask you to do two things. I'd like you to stand. Everyone, please stand. I want you to join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I want you to turn to those beside you and in front and behind you and shake hands with your fellow citizens. So let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now please shake hands with those around you.
Good luck tonight.
The reason that we've begun this meeting this evening that way is because I want to be sure that we respect the freedom that we enjoy to be able to congregate this way. And I also want everyone to respect their neighbor and their neighbor's right to be here and to have an opinion and to participate in this session. I guess the expression is, you know the Republic is alive when all of you gather, as we do here tonight, to vote on something that's important to all of us. I'd like to give you some background on me quickly. I am Dick. I am Nancy's husband. I'm Maura and Aaron and Dick Jr. and Michael and Christopher and Patrick's father, and 91 years young Ann McNiff's son-in-law. My last name is O'Brien. Through the wisdom of the real Acton Town Moderator, Don McKenzie, and also the Board of Selectmen, I've been designated as the backup Acton Moderator on reserve for unusual circumstances. And believe me, as a pinch hitter and as number two, I'm trying very, very hard. So work with me. I think we can do this tonight. Don is out of the country this evening. A number of years ago, Don and I met for the first time when we began our town service as volunteer members of the Acton Personnel Board. I'm currently the moderator that you elected to serve the Acton Water District. And I'll do that on Monday night, and I certainly want to welcome you all to the Water District meeting on Monday night, if you have the time. Hopefully I'll see all of you again then. Tonight I'm delighted to try to fill the shoes of Don's enormous shoes, and hopefully we'll do that adequately. I think this is a unique meeting for the town of Acton. Typical town meetings address many issues. This meeting addresses just one: building schools. Typical town meetings deal with many motions. We'll attempt to decide these questions with just 3 tonight. Typical town meetings are held out in the auditorium, but tonight we've got the kind of crowd and the interest that requires us to have 2 venues. This meeting's likely to be a bit emotional. Schools are important to families and to the town of Acton. And it may be a seminal meeting for you and I as town citizens. Seminal is defined by Webster as of or having power to create or to originate. And certainly the things that we're discussing here are major opportunities to do those things. We're certainly here to consider a significant school issue in this town, which is devoted daily to its families and to its well-respected schools. I want to go over a couple rules that will help us to work together to facilitate your ability to speak and our ability to come to a decision. The basic process is we make motions. When motions are made, they're seconded. The mover then discusses his or her motion, and we vote. It's that simple. To move or to discuss, use the microphones that are located on both sides of this field house and also in the auditorium. We will designate the microphones to my left and your right as the pro microphones, and those to my right and your left as the con microphones, so that when you have a chance to make a point that you believe will support the issue as a pro comment, please use those microphones, and when you oppose or want to make a point that is opposed, make use of those microphones. When you approach the microphone, state your name and your address. First-time speakers first before repeats. And of course, the exception is the elected boards for questions and answers and clarifications. We expect each speaker to add to the discussion. Brevity is a blessing. No personal attacks. I use an expression that Don offered me. He said, "I'm not Judge Ito," and I agree. I'm not prepared as well. Talk only to the motions and to the amendments. Make your comments pertinent. For purposes of a motion, I'd like to recognize the League of Women Voters and Miss Mickey Williams. Mickey?
I think we've lost power.
No sound?
Hello? No,
I
okay.
hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mickey Williams, 5 Horseshoe Drive, on behalf of the League of Women Voters. I move that speakers to the motion, except presenters, be limited to 5 minutes of time at the microphone, allowing all other first-time speakers to speak before being recognized again on that motion. I'd like to speak to that as well.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Thank you. The League of Women Voters supports town meeting procedures that encourage citizen participation, facilitate informed decision-making, promote efficiency, respect people's time, recognize the need to be flexible, protect the individual's right to be heard, and ensure a voting system that is efficient and fair. For this reason, we are making this motion tonight. The intent is not to limit debate or free speech, but to enhance it. The purpose of the limit is to urge speakers to focus their thoughts and comments so that the meeting members' time is respected, and to allow more speakers on this topic. For this reason, I urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Are there any further comments? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor of the motion to limit debate to 5 minutes per speaker signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? No. The motion carries. Mr. Caddy.
Bill Cady. Bill Cady, Strawberry Hill Road.
Can't hear you very clearly, Bill.
I'd like to make a motion to cast the ballot for Article 1 and 2 as a secret ballot. We have sufficient tellers in this organization to handle that, but that's the motion to have a secret ballot on Article 1 and 2.
Is there a second to that motion? The motion been moved and seconded. Bill, please discuss it.
With the size of crowd that we have tonight, I've been newly appointed as head teller. I have 25 tellers signed. I have a dozen ballot boxes in hand. I think we can make it a more efficient, fair. People don't have to worry about letting their neighbors know how they voted on such a controversial issue and such a large audience. I think that tonight's a night that we should have a secret ballot.
Good, Bill. Are there any comment? Okay. Mr. Deasy, would you come up forward, please, and let me chat with you a bit? Mr. Deasy is responsible for the audio and... Oh. Are you? Okay. All right, two gentlemen, technicians, are working on the problem, and so we're going to have to do the best we can in the interim. Bill, has anybody tried one of these mics? Let's see what those sound like. Did someone try one of those mics? Just see if they're activated.
Can you hear me, Mr. Moderator?
I can. Did you hear him, Bill?
Over here you can.
Over here you can.
Let's try that again. Okay, is that working? Sounds good to me.
Okay, good. Then let's use this microphone for making these announcements. And
Isn't this working?
I'm sorry?
This is working, isn't it? Yeah.
Sounds as though it is.
May I proceed, sir?
Go ahead, Bill.
I think that on the size of the audience that we have tonight, and we have a controversial, what could be construed as a controversial issue from some people's point of view in neighborhoods, employees of towns and schools, to be able to vote in a standing, we obviously, given that it needs a two-thirds counted vote because of the restrictions in terms of how you have to count the vote on this type of ballot, that we should handle it through a secret ballot. And I'm prepared to handle it with a dozen boxes. Every section in the facility has been assigned tellers, and I think we can do it on a more efficient basis and give people, to allow them to vote their conscience freely for such an issue.
Thank you, Bill. Further comments?
I have a comment, sir.
Mr. Friedrich?
I have heard that the one exception, Mr. Kabakov, will be allowed something more than the 5 minutes. Is this correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear clearly what you're saying.
It is my understanding. Is this any better?
Yes, it is.
It is my understanding. Cadillac, thank you.
I think we're growing old together, so just speak right up. I'm with you.
It is my understanding that Mr. Charlie Cadillac, who has given his untold time to this meeting, will be allowed more than 5 minutes. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Point of order. If you're at a microphone, I'll hear it. And the answer to your question is, yes, he has. He's been considered a presenter at this meeting.
Thank you.
Surely. Are there any further comments on the motion on the floor? No comments for or against the motion to use the ballot box. And I ask you to take a vote. All those in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. The motion carries. For purposes of giving us as citizens a background and an understanding of the issues that are being presented to us this evening in motions, I'd like to recognize the chairman of the Finance Committee, Tom Mackey, to begin to give us a financial understanding of the environment within which we live as citizens. Tom?
Thank you, Dick. Can you hear me up there?
That speaker.
If I speak louder, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
You know, it's wonderful talking to 2,000 people when they're all friends. Good evening. I'd like to offer my welcome to you. We are now gathered here probably to address not only the largest financial decision that the town of Acton has ever made, but also probably the most important. Next slide. I'm going to address 4 subjects. And they're sitting up there on the... They're not. Okay, they are total community perspective, a 5-year capital plan, a tax bill impact, and some risk reduction initiatives that we'd like to recommend.
Tom, just a moment. I don't think it's very clear. These, the visuals, huh? Yeah.
Are they
Okay.
appearing on the TV back there?
Let's take a moment to adjust.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's go back to the beginning.
Where's Steve? Yeah.
There we go. This is the outline of what we're going to talk about tonight, and I will try and make it as brief but as clear as I possibly can. Next chart. Regarding the total community perspective, you heard last April and other times I've talked to you, when the FinCom talks, we are talking for the total community. We are appointed by Don McKenzie, who is the only official that is voted across the board, both schools and towns. Now, when I talk about all residents of Acton, I'd like to go both in the depth and the breadth. We're talking about all ages, from those who are babies to people who are older than I am. We're talking to people who have showed up here in this town and are residents of 1 week, all the way to people who live there their whole lives into their 90s. As Mrs. Clinton has very articulately mentioned, it takes a whole town to raise a child. And I hope you will think that tonight. We need the police, the teachers, the firemen, the religious, etc. Now, on the FinCom, we have our main objective tonight is to try to present a perspective regarding your tax bills. We are hoping to do this so that the elected officials and others can vote and can address the benefits of the project, and if they're going to get into numbers, address something other than the tax impact. That is only one facet of this very major project. For the last couple of months, you have seen in the Beacon, you have seen at various meetings numbers all over the place. We have had dollars, we have had projections of school enrollment. Tonight, I'm going to concentrate on the tax impact. Now, what do we have right now? We have approved in the past 2 years a library, a North Area Recreation Center, Morrison property, etc. Last special town meeting, we approved a new school regional agreement. We have to continue the services, and on top of that, the population of the school children is growing. This is not unique to Acton. All you got to do is pick up the paper, and you will see it is throughout the United States. Accordingly, and this is the first time it's being announced in a public arena, we will have an override, an operational override, next April. It will be in the range of $2 to $2.5 billion. We will go into that in a little bit more detail, but you must remember that when we're talking about the various project expenses. I need a light. That's okay. Is there a light?
Tom needs a light.
No, that's okay. But this is what you call going in the blind. We know what's coming next. Tonight, we are here to talk about the first part of a $95 million project. We're to talk about the $40 million to the elementary school and the regional junior high school. And I would like, before leaving this chart, is to emphasize once again, the financial aspect is only one aspect. There are other qualitative benefits associated with this project. Now, as we get into the tax approach, I'd like to share with you how we went about coming up with the numbers that I will conclude this briefing with. The source data came from your elected officials. The FinCom did not make up the numbers. They worked very hard with the school committee, the Board of Selectmen, and the various staffs to make sure the numbers we have are in jive with one another. Furthermore, the source data addresses not only the project expense that you've been reading about in the newspaper, but it also addresses the debt service that goes along with that project service. For those of you who have bought a house, you realize when you get finished paying the mortgage, you've paid double what you thought you took out on the mortgage. If you get 5%, $1 million will double in 20 years. So we have included the debt service. We have also included the operation and maintenance of what it takes to operate the new buildings. This is a very important facet. So the source data we have for the projects that you're going to vote on tonight includes debt service and the associated operations and maintenance. Now, what did we do with this? We integrated this data, this source data, with the other budget information we have, which is ongoing. You know, we just don't stop because there's a special town meeting. The town must go on. And we then tried and estimated a balance between two very, very different approaches in looking at numbers. When you talk about tax rate or a tax bill, you're talking about a tax rate, and it is very, very sensitive to the value of the total town, Acton's total valuation, very sensitive. If you look at the last 5 years, Acton has gone up 5%, almost 5%, which includes a recent reevaluation, which was a 10%. If you go back 10 years, you're looking at a growth, an annual growth of 1%, because you recall in '92, the bottom dropped out of the condo market. We on the FinCom have chosen a realistic minimum at a 2.5% growth. Those will be the basic numbers we present to you. We are prepared to talk about the range, and I will at the appropriate time. Next, I would like to emphasize that these numbers we're dealing with are estimates. There is nothing space science about this. These are estimates, the best estimate of what it's going to cost to build the building, the best estimate of what the economy is going to be in the next 5 years, the best estimate of how many babies are going to be born at Emerson. Remember, we're dealing with estimates. We're not dealing with the space science aspect. Now, lastly, we are using here a continuum. It's your 5-year capital plan. Acton is one of the few in the Commonwealth that has this. We are using this as our continuum. Next chart. If you can see the chart, the top 2 lines are what we're talking about tonight. For the sake of completeness, so that you have as much information so that you can make a decision tonight, we have included the rest of the capital 5-year plan, and that is a public safety building we're going to vote on in 2 years, an infrastructure which is going to have $2 million every 2 years, and probably will be taken care of through warrant articles at the annual town meeting. But you recall, this is very important to maintain the infrastructure. Lastly, we have the high school, which we will talk about in a couple of years, but we have included the initial expense of the high school out in the out years of '03 and '04. You ready? Okay. All right, go to the next one. Yeah, forget about the other slide. Go to the next one. And now we come to a chart that represents many, many hours of argument, many, many voices raised, et cetera, et cetera. I hope you can read it. Well, if you can't, I'm going to take it over. On the bar on your left is last year's money, and this is for the $300,000 house. You were at $5,500. This year, you're paying $56,000. Let's drop, and it continues to go, up to $6,100. You recall, we alerted you that there will be an operational override next spring. We're projecting that the $300,000 tax bill in 2000 will be $6,100. And then it projects up to $7,100. Now, that is at what we consider the judicious growth of Acton's value. If you take the optimistic point of view that we're going to grow at 5% a year for the next 5 years, that number 7,100 drops to 6,300. If you take the pessimistic point of view, the number increases to 7,600. Let me make sure I got that right. If you take the optimistic view, it's 6,300. You take the judicious view, it's 7,100. You take the pessimistic view, it's 7,600. We have chosen what we consider judicious review. Now, before we leave this chart, if you have a calculator, you're looking at it and you're saying, almost 30% increase in my taxes. Well, if you have a calculator, it's between 27 and 28%. But let me put that in another perspective. If you consider that this year your tax bill is $5,600, and in '04 it'll be $7,100, that is increased only 4.9% compounded annually. If you compound the increase annually, which is the normal way to do it, you're at 4.9%. And for those of you who have money markets, you realize that's a good money market. Go on. In conclusion, I've spent many, many years, 35 more years than I'd like to think of, as an engineer. I have put proposals together, and I've taken proposals as a manager. And the one thing you've got to ask the project manager, what is it you're doing that ensures that that $40 million that we're voting on tonight does not grow? That is a very, very important point, because you heard about cost overruns, etc. I believe your elected officials have taken steps in this direction, but I think the appointed officials and elected officials need your encouragement to keep doing certain things. For example, there is an element for project control where an individual will be hired and will be supervised the clerk of the works of the two separate projects. We further recommend, and I think the school committee has got this, a school building committee composed of at least half of men and women who are experienced with large-scale development. A $40 million project, ladies and gentlemen, is not for $10 million projects. The large-scale development can get you in cost overruns, and it must be controlled. Next, one of the purposes we have for the new building is we are putting in the maintenance infrastructure in place. You will be at the April town meeting asked to vote on warrant articles that address maintaining what we have now to avoid having to come back to a town meeting for something new. We encourage you to encourage us to have a maintenance plan and present it at each and every annual town meeting. Last but not least, and this is a little bit premature, but being the nagging manager I was, I always want more, more, and more. And I'd like to encourage an implementation plan. How are we going to move from the current schools to the new schools that are being built? This can be very expensive. It must be well thought out. Again, I encourage you to expect such an approach associated with the annual town meeting. I would like to recognize three people who are important here: John Prendeville, Bill Ryan, and John Murray, and thank you for your attention.
I'd like to make a couple of housekeeping announcements as we proceed. We're starting to run out of space here in the auditorium at the field house, and so what I'd like to do is ask the non-voters section to move to the auditorium so we could free up a few seats for those folks who are voters here in Acton. And I've also asked the Assistant Town Manager, John Murray, to be my mirror image and to take the microphone in the auditorium so that we can begin to talk with him and allow people in the auditorium to join us and listen to us. There are about 11 seats here in the front if somebody is really scratching for an opportunity to sit up close. Yes. Jesse, before you begin, I'd like to have Tom Mackey introduce the members of the Finance Committee.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your predecessor, or Don, always makes me go through this. I think it's a test to make sure I know who's on the FinCom. On my right, and sitting going from your right, that way. Okay. What's your name? Here we go. Bob Miller, Drew Elder, Chuck Olmsted, Bob Evans, John Prendeville, Jennifer Milliken, Sidney Johnson, and Gene Seifleet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. We appreciate the work that the Finance Committee does. Now I'd like to introduce, who do I want to introduce? I do want to introduce Jesse? Okay. I will introduce Jesse Liberty to begin the presentation, a background presentation from the school committee. Jesse?
I stand here only to introduce Lee Stunts, Chair of the Building Committee.
Please raise a hand if you can't hear either of us at any... Okay. Is that better? Okay. We'll try our best. And we'll try our best to get our technology going here. No? Good evening. I'm Lee Stunts, Chairman of the Building Committee and Vice Chairman of the Regional School Committee. My co-presenter this evening is Jesse Liberty, also a member of the Building Committee and Chairman of the Acton Public School Committee. First of all, I would like to introduce you to the Acton Public School Committee, seated on the podium. To my far left is Michael Coppolino, Mike Scanlon, Pam Harding Barrett, and Marianne Ashton. We are presenting 3 articles to you this evening. The first article is to address the elementary space problem. The second article is to address the junior high space problem. And the third article is a housekeeping article to make sure that the right entity owns the land underneath the junior high addition. Seated in front of me are the people who have worked continuously on the building committee since May of this year. We have built on the foundation of the previous 6 years of hard work. I would like them to stand along with everyone else in this auditorium who has worked on this effort. A lot of people have worked very hard for very many years. Thank you. Our presentation will be in 4 parts this evening. The first is, what is the problem we have been addressing? Our schools are overcrowded. The problem has been with us for several years. In 1993, we reopened Miriam to start the process of dealing with our burgeoning enrollment at the elementary level. Our elementary schools have space, according to state standards, for about 2,000 students. Our peak enrollment will be over 2,500. We are coming to the end of our space, both in the junior high and the high school. This enrollment bulge lasts for the next 10 to 15 years at the elementary schools and 15 to 20 years at the regional schools. Our enrollment continues to go up in the elementary schools and peaks between 2001 and 2004. That blue line on the graphs that you see is the current year, 1998. In the junior high school, the peak comes later. It comes in about 2007. The peak is approximately 60% above the 1997 enrollment of the junior high school. At the high school, the peak comes in approximately 2010 by our best predictions. The peak is projected to be an increase of almost 100% of Acton-Boxborough students at the high school from the 1997 enrollment. What process did we use to try to solve this problem? This current iteration of the building committee was formed in May of this year. The districts have been looking at the space problem since 1991. There have been ongoing committees ever since. Our goal for this building committee was to come up with an immediate, cost-effective, and educationally sound solution. Since May, this building committee has looked at 18 different components, 26 different configurations of those components. We have consistently sought input from those other than the membership on the committee, and the meetings have been an open discussion, fully including anyone of the public who wished to attend. All decisions were made by consensus. Most of the configurations of the individual components were eliminated because they did not meet the three criteria of immediate, cost-effective, and educationally sound. Various no-build scenarios were considered. We eliminated any of them which included buying land since it was too expensive, or any options such as the use of commercial space for classrooms, which would not be reimbursable by the state. We are reimbursed by the state at 63% for local projects and 61% for regional projects. What guidelines did we use? The parameters this building committee used for the elementary project included the urgency to get the elementary buildings online as soon as possible, building enough space to meet the class size guidelines, as well as a rational plan for the system-wide needs, which included such things as our commitment to the CASE Educational Collaborative and space needed for special education, computers, art, and music. The regional parameters included building to meet the enrollment projections, not buying new land by utilizing the land already owned on the central campus, renovating the regional buildings with reimbursable money, and a plan for space for the system-wide needs such as the central office, pupil services, and the Technology Resource Center. The K through 12 comprehensive proposal the building committee generated and the school committee is setting before you tonight consists of building a twin school, turning Miriam into a kindergarten center, a renovation and expansion of the junior high school, and in a few years, a renovation and expansion of the high school. This is the plan of the central campus, and I'm very sorry, my pointer is not that great, so bear with me. You can see the twin school over to the right of the campus behind the current McCarthy Town School. The addition to the junior high will be to the left, coming out from the current superintendent's store and attached to the Blanchard Auditorium. In a few years, the addition to the high school will be added. The preliminary plan is for the addition to go up to the left of the building as you look from Charter Road. The twin school building to be built behind McCarthy Town will be two separate schools, each with their own principal. This has several critical advantages. It makes it possible to optimize the use of space on the crowded central campus by putting two schools on a smaller footprint. It limits the elementary construction to one site. It creates shared spaces which contribute the advantages of a space large enough for each school to meet individually in the cafetorium with its own stage, a full-size gym for school and community use, and a large library for school and community use. These pictures show the building. The entry will be at the middle level. The 3 levels will be terraced into the site, giving the appearance of a 2-level school from many angles. Each of the separate schools will be housed in one wing, one around the cafetorium up here to your far left, and one around the gym. The other shared spaces, such as the library, are housed in the center core. A second piece of the plan houses all the kindergartens, the integrated preschool, as well as some system-wide spaces in the Merriam Building. This frees up rooms in every school, and in 2001, when the twin school comes online, decreases each school population by 70 to 80 children as the kindergartners move out. The kindergarten center will allow us to focus educationally in a developmentally appropriate way on our youngest students. Activities and support services can be geared directly for them. How will this space be freed up? This is a diagrammatic slide of one of the elementary schools this year. Other than a room and a half for special education and a tiny room for technology, all the space is filled with regular classrooms. What will happen if the building project proceeds? Next year, in September '99, we would start adding classes. For instance, this year's kindergarten has only 14 classes. They need at least 17 in order to keep the class sizes at 22 or below until grade 3. So, say one of those first grades moves into the cafetorium this cafetorium next September. The next September of 2000, this school would now need 4 second grades to house the 4 first grades from the previous year. The 4th second grade would again be in the cafetorium. Then, in September of 2001, when the twin school comes online, the 2 kindergarten rooms would free up. One of those would house the 4th, 3rd grade, and the other one would be free for art and music. When we renovate the junior high school, the renovations will create a junior high which is like new in order to get state approval and qualify for state reimbursement. The addition is planned to attach at the building where the superintendent's store is now and come around to the Blanchard Auditorium. That's the junior high gym. The field in front of the building will be replaced by parking, and a new field will be built in the back left of the building. The addition and renovation to the junior high will not be voted on at this time. It is scheduled for a vote in 2001 or 2002 and will consist of a 2-story addition which houses a new library and new science labs, while the current ones will be changed into classrooms. Here is the pre-conceptual plan for the high school. The entrance would be facing Charter Road. The addition to the new library, with the new library and science labs, would be to the left. The second story of the south side of the high school is shown over here on the right-hand side. The plan that the school committee is presenting to you this evening is different from the 1997 plan for two main reasons. First of all, the enrollment projections are higher than they were predicted last year. Secondly, the system-wide needs are being planned for in a systemic way. The construction of the junior high is timely and made possible by the revised regional agreement passed by this and Boxborough's town meeting in October. Now I will turn you over to Jesse Liberty, who will do the cost and project management.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight I will describe the costs associated with this project and how we will manage this project so that we stay within budget. When considering the cost, we must include not only the building expense and the interest on the 25-year building loan, but also the incremental operating and maintenance costs. Finally, most of us want to know, how much will all of this increase our taxes? The cost to Acton of the elementary building is $7.9 million, which represents our share of the $21.35 million cost after state reimbursement. You have our commitment tonight that we will not go forward without the reimbursement. In fact, we will not even break ground until we have a commitment from the state for that funding. At its peak, this loan with interest will increase taxes by 51 cents per $1,000 of assessed value and then fall rapidly. Over the course of the loan, the average cost will be 24 cents per $1,000. On a $300,000 home, the peak at year 6 is just over $150 a year. If your home is assessed at less than $300,000, you will pay less. But the slope of the curve, which represents how quickly the costs fall in subsequent years, that curve remains the same. The cost of the junior high school, Acton's share, will be $6.4 million, which represents our share after factoring in both the 61% state reimbursement and also Boxborough's share under the regional agreement. The same commitment applies here. Until we have state commitment, we don't begin. We are conservatively estimating that Boxborough will represent 18% of the population of the junior high school, but our enrollment projections show that over time they will represent more, and this will bring down Acton's cost to some degree. The impact of the loan plus our share of the interest will peak at 39 cents per $1,000 in 6 years, and then will fall rapidly to an average of 18 cents per $1,000 over the course of the loan. The peak cost of the junior high school in year 6 is just under $120 per year on a $300,000 home. When you combine the elementary and junior high school projects, the cost to Acton is approximately $14.4 million, which represents our share of a $40 million project, with a peak impact, including interest, of 90 cents per $1,000, falling rapidly and averaging 42 cents per $1,000 over the course of the loan. The peak impact of both the elementary and the junior high school is in year 6, when it approaches $270 per year on a $300,000 home. But then it falls rapidly, and 10 years later, this has fallen to under $100 a year. The Finance Committee asked us to project operating costs for the next 5 years. We vote on these every year at annual town meeting in April. Our projections show that operating costs will rise whether or not we build. But we compared the increase caused by this project with our very worst case and least expensive alternative of doing absolutely nothing, just putting more children into each room. What we find is that the building causes little increment to the cost of operating the schools. For example, in the first year, the $15 million operating budget is increased by just 2%. In fact, in most years, we are looking at less than a 5% increase in operating budgets as a result of this project. The impact at the region is even smaller. The school committee is grateful for the work done by the Finance Committee, by the Board of Selectmen, by the Financial Advisory Task Force, and for the help we received from the Office of the Town Managers. We embrace the FinCom model, and we agree with them that the tax impact is very sensitive to the assumptions you make about growth in town. We plugged in growth in revenues and in assessed valuation consistent with the previous 5 years. With that assumption, the tax impact of everything the town is doing and planning, the school projects, the recreation area, the library, and other town projects planned for the next few years. With all of that, we show an increase in taxes of 17% in the 5th year. However, and here is the most critical point, perhaps the most important thing I'll say tonight. Even if we don't build, taxes rise 12% in the same period. The incremental impact of this project is 5%. Now, that's with a 5% growth. We heard the Finance Committee say that a more appropriate assumption about the growth in assessed valuation is 2.5%. Let's put those numbers in. In that case, the tax impact at the peak is 29%, and that's a lot of money. But if we don't build, taxes still rise in that model, 20%. Thus, the increment caused by this project is 9%. Here's what we learned. Our taxes are going up whether or not we build. It is the recommendation of the Building Committee, of the School Committee, of the Board of Selectmen, and of the Finance Committee that this proposal before you tonight is the best, least expensive solution to the overcrowding in our schools. And while tax rates are hard to predict, just about any assumption you make will show at most a 5 to 10% increase in the next 5 years as a result of tonight's proposal. In addition, we on the school committee are committed to working hard on the operating numbers to hold down these costs. This is a large and complex project, and it requires professional oversight and management. We will expand the building committee to bring on additional engineering and construction expertise. In addition, the building committee will provide monthly reports both to the school committee and to the Board of Selectmen and to the Finance Committee. We make an additional commitment to you tonight. We will request no changes which will take this project beyond its current scope and its current cost.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jesse. The police have asked me to make a special announcement. The fire trucks really depend on access, and they're unable to make their way up Charter Road at the moment. So the police have decided that they're either going to ask you to go out and move your car if it is on Charter Road, or they're going to tag it and move it themselves. So I recommend that if you do have that situation, that you just take a moment and go out and resolve it. There is parking around the campus, and certainly if nothing else works, you can go over to the Kmart parking lot and walk back, but you do need to move your car if you're on Charter Road. Thank you, Jesse.
Proving, as I always knew, timing is everything. Please, if you're affected, please move your car. I won't be insulted. I'll carry on. Oversight of this project will be provided by a project manager reporting to the building committee as prescribed by law. The project manager will work with the clerk of the works, who will in turn work with the office of Michael Rosenfeld, the architects. This is a proven approach recommended by the State Inspector General. The debt exclusion override election will be held 1 week from tonight on Tuesday, December 8th. Voting is at your normal polling location from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We will receive state approval of the project this coming June. Construction begins next September. The junior high school renovation and expansion and the twin school and Merriam Kindergarten Center will open for students in September of 2001. And in 2001 or 2002, we will bring to town meeting a detailed proposal for the high school with a goal of opening the renovated and expanded high school in September of 2004. Tonight, we ask for a two-thirds majority on each of 3 votes in turn. First, we will ask you to approve the twin school project. Next, we will ask you to approve the renovation and expansion of the junior high school. And finally, we will ask you to approve a transfer of land necessary for the junior high school project. Let me end by saying that these projects provide an immediate, cost-effective, and educationally sound solution to our space problem. They have been approved by the Finance Committee and by the Board of Selectmen. After 7 years of study, 6 months of concentrated planning, and literally dozens of forums, the town of Acton has asked us to provide a comprehensive K-12 solution and to lay out all the costs: building, interest, maintenance, and operating. We have done so. There are members of the school committee and the administration at the front of the room to answer questions. We are here tonight to engage in a full and open discussion of any and all questions and issues. We urge you to vote yes to affirm our commitment as a community to the quality of Acton schools. Thank you.
I'd like now to recognize the chairman of the Acton Board of Selectmen, Wayne Fredericks. Wayne?
Good evening. I'm Wayne Fredericks, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I'd like to introduce the rest of the board. It's one of the few... Can you hear it? Better?
Better.
Better? Speak right into the microphone. My name is Wayne Fredericks. I am presently the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and this is a rare occasion that the Selectmen are not sitting on the stage. But we do have front row seats, so I'd like to introduce each one. Doreen Hunter. Nancy Tavernier. Peter Ashton. And Herman Kabakoff. And thank you for a great turnout tonight.
Wayne, would you like to make some comments at this point with reference to the overview of the situation? Yes, certainly am.
David. David Steinhofer, Financial Advisory.
The chair recognizes David Steinfelder. David, I may have butchered your name. I'm sorry. I apologize. For those of you who are wondering, we are going to vote on a motion tonight eventually, so this is important background, and you need to be, patient. Some of this background is very valuable, and it's only from the individuals who've had hands-on contact with it, and it's certainly important to you as you try to make a decision. So just bear with us. I think we have a valuable part to play here.
Okay, can people hear me now? Good evening. I'm here representing the School Building Financial Task Force. This group was created at the request of the Board of Selectmen with the approval of the school committee about 5 weeks ago to review the building proposals. I'd like to thank the members who gave so much of their time and effort on this board to study the issues. I know the members spent many hours reviewing materials and seeking to understand the issues involved. The task force had a diverse membership. Some members have official town positions, and some were general citizens. Board of Selectmen supplied Wayne Fredericks, Herman Kabikoff, and Dory Hunter. The Finance Committee contributed Bob Evans. Representing the school committee and school administration were Michael Capolino and Bill Ryan. Drawn from the general community were some independent citizens at large who are not members of any of the groups campaigning for or against these projects. They are Anna Uriati, Ed Marr, Chip Wiggins, and Tom Pell. I would also like to thank the guests who attended our meetings: Charles Cadillac, John Prenderville, Peter and Marianne Ashton, and Bella Mateus. Their questions helped us define our goals and helped bring many issues into focus. We reviewed the substantial materials supplied by the school administration, including the building report, as well as materials which we developed ourselves by contacting other school systems that had recently been involved with school building projects. In doing so, we attempted to answer 2 questions. Within the guidelines provided by the school committee were reasonable alternatives considered by the school building committee. And second, for the projects submitted, were the projected costs reasonable? We did not challenge the underlying issues set by the school committee, such as desired class size or staffing requirements. These are strategic decisions which we believed were outside the scope or time available for review by our task force. We voted on both these questions last Monday. All but one of our members, who was tied up with his job, were in attendance. We unanimously agreed to both of these questions. With issue 1, the alternatives, we reviewed the numbers which the building committee generated for other proposed projects, including but not limited to taking no action, moving the school administration to outside quarters, buying existing commercial space and refitting it, buying undeveloped land and building a different combination, as well as building a different combination of school buildings. We found that the alternatives were not as financially sound as the current building proposals to meet the long-term solutions desired by the school committee. A major component of our decision was the approximately 60% reimbursement rate for new construction that is provided by the state. This would not apply in the leasing or purchase plus renovation of commercial state options. With issue 2, reasonably priced, we reviewed the proposed construction numbers for both the grade school and the junior high school projects. The details for these numbers are in a planning state we found out is normal for this stage of a project. We compared the projected costs with 8 school projects from other school systems in the state, and were satisfied that the proposed costs for our projects are in line with other projects and the net benefits received. So, can we get this working? It's on.
It should be on.
These were the projects that we compared, okay? And we reviewed the building report, the proposed budgets, and the conceptual cost design estimates with the intent of uncovering, and this is in millions of dollars, missing items or duplications. The numbers supplied to us were for planning numbers, but we found no obvious items missing. We compared the building numbers to those of the other schools. The number that I showed previously, the numbers were not significantly different, although some line items differed between schools. Now, I'm not going to go into all the line items because we could be here all night, and we did many nights of that. From our review, it appears that the Acton school officials are aware of the items that might be different and are considering ways of addressing them. The projects that the two projects we're looking at appear to be adequately budgeted to maximize state reimbursement. We also reviewed the bonding schedule for the projects. The bonding schedule was developed by State Street Bank and uses growth assumptions that were developed by the town administration and a member of the Board of Selectmen. We also ran sensitivity analysis on the numbers to see what would be the effect of interest rate changes between now and the issuing of the long-term bonds, because that could have a major effect. Now, I'm going to show these graphs in two parts. One, this is for building only, it's for the physical plant only, it's not teachers or any of the other potential costs. And it shows for various house sizes. That's for the elementary and tax impact for the junior high. Now I have sensitivity analysis. I'm not going to show it. It really doesn't show much difference, plus our cost estimates our bonding estimates were the current projections for from State Street. Okay. The projections that you've seen show the effect of the bonding for the school buildings on your tax rates for different house costs. They account for reimbursement for the state. It also takes into consideration the regional agreement for Boxborough for the junior high and possible growth patterns between Boxborough and Acton. People should also remember that any assessment and the costs are on assessed value for your house, which is not necessarily your market value. Remember, also the detailed numbers that we have seen are preliminary and depend on bids made by general contractors. There appear to be, from our study, there appear to be adequate reserves built into the preliminary numbers to prevent the projects from going over budget, assuming adequate management of the projects as explained by the school committee. I'd like to thank all the people who participated in the group and the spouses who now know what we were doing for all the Monday nights in November. Hopefully I've been brief enough for this group. Thank you very much.
I'd like to recognize Doré Hunter of the Board of Selectmen. Doré?
Could we have the overhead projector, please? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege and honor to speak tonight for the Board of Selectmen. Before the warrant went to print, the board voted our position on these articles tonight, and the three of us who stand before you tonight, constituting a majority of the Board of Selectmen, voted to recommend. The other two selectmen abstained for lack of information. We met tonight before this meeting, and that vote did not change. I'm going to discuss 3 points tonight. I'm going to spend a fair amount of time on how we will be remembered and talking about the history, the road that has brought Acton here tonight. And in doing so, I will respectfully disagree somewhat with my colleague, the chairman of the Finance Committee. This is an important vote, but it is not necessarily the most important vote on this subject that Acton has ever faced. I'll say a few words about how the plan that's before you tonight meets my goals as a former selectman, a former school committee man, a parent, a grandparent, and a member of the building committee, which has been going on for too many weekly and bi-weekly meetings that I can even remember at this point. And then I will say in reverse order a few words about the decision to be made in 2001 concerning the original Acton High School, what is currently referred to as the town building. The town building, the original high school, is a structure which holds a dear place in the hearts of many of the older citizens in town. It's an impressive looking building. And we will face a decision in 2001 as to what will be done with that structure. Its use will be discontinued as a school. It no longer meets the building code that's required for schools. There are seismic requirements that that building does not meet. There are many people who would like to see it retained. I'm among them. And I hope perhaps I can contribute some of the experience that I had as the chairman of the reuse committee for Merriam School when we saved that building and kept it available. But I stress that we have 2 years to that decision, a much longer time than we had with Merriam. Now, I could discuss my goals as a member of the building committee at great length, but I'm only going to touch on one, and that's flexibility and why I'm enthusiastic about this proposal this year as compared to the one that we voted on in 1997. Paradoxically, that is because Merriam is not being renovated. It is our swing space. It is presented to you tonight by the school committee as the alternative to have a kindergarten center to free up space in the other schools. Well, to staff to do that, we know we're going to have to present some override questions. What happens if they don't pass? Merriam is not being renovated or rebuilt. We're not committing new money to that. Therefore, it remains our great point of flexibility. We can continue it as it is intended and presented tonight. We can do other things with it as we have in the past. We can use it for other space anytime we wish. Therefore, somebody who, like myself, who was on the school committee when we were in declining enrollment, appreciates the ability to put in or out blocks of space as is necessary. Now I really want to get to the main point, and that's how we will be remembered and how we should remember those who went before us. Our predecessors faced challenges as we face tonight. They responded magnificently to those challenges, and I think a page of history is appropriate here for a moment. Let's talk about where the town was in 1925. There was a population of about 2,100 people. 21% of which were at school age. They had a $48,000 annual school budget. And in that year, they voted a $100,000 high school building. Now that is more than twice the annual education budget. And they went forward and they built that building. That's the town building. A generation passed. In 1950, about not an insignificant increase in town's population. It went all the way up to 3,500 and some odd people, about 17% of which were students. Consider the size of the population increase. The population did not double in a generation. But enrollments began to increase dramatically in about 1950 as Acton became a bedroom community, a community facing many in-movers. And so in 1952, a big building step was taken. The 8 rooms of the McCarthy wing, the wood wing that kind of looks like World War II construction on the back of the town building, was built and classrooms were discontinued in some of the village schools. In 1954, the town received a magnificent gift from the Blanchard family. The Blanchard Auditorium, which provided the original high school with a gym, which it did not have, and provided a place for town meeting. This town hall had become overcrowded. In 1955, one of the defining steps, Acton education was taken, the region was set up. And to set up the region, at a time when the school budget was $150,000, they voted a $1.3 million bond issue. That's about 9 times the annual budget. In 1957, the regional high school, which is the present junior high school, opened. The Merriam School was started, and the West Acton Fire Station was built. The community was growing, public works were at foot, and similar school construction activities were going on as we're talking about tonight. Yet, only 3 years later, in 1960, a proposal was voted upon affirmatively to add another 15 rooms to the regional high school. In the period 1950 to 1960, Acton's population jumped up from 3,500 to 7,100, and the student population increased to 26%, and the money being raised by property taxes in that 10 years went up 60%. In 1961, the town voted to build the South Acton Fire Station. In 1962, added another 4 rooms to the wood wing behind town. The regional school addition of 15 rooms came online, and we acquired the Arlington Street site with the intent to build an elementary school, and then found it didn't perk. But the schools were bulging, and an ongoing search was continued for new land. In 1964, the police station was built. In 1965, they found land at Elm Street and bought it and started construction of the Douglas School. In 1966, a regional junior high school, which is the core of this building, was started. An addition was put on the Memorial Library, and they acquired the land for the Conant School. I would submit these were difficult years and are certainly comparable to the situation we find ourselves now. In 1967, the Gates School was started, and the cemetery service building, the municipal side. Skipped a year, 1969, I remodeled the West Acton Fire Station. 1970, built DPW and a highway building. And we look at 1960 to 1970, the population had gone to 14,007. 31% were students, and the amount of money being raised by taxes was up 428%, 428. In 1971, the Conant School was started. The major addition to this high school was built. That's this building, and the old high school, the second high school up the way, was swapped, so the junior high school and senior high school changed. And little noticed, Vanetta and I moved into town with 3 kids. We're still here. We now have 3 grandchildren here. Our children were well educated in these buildings. In 1974, the enrollment peaked. A 6th school, which was actually on town meeting warrant, was passed over. It would have been built next to Conant on space that now cannot environmentally be used. And we look back, we find the population doubled in town from 1950 to 1960. It doubled again from 1960 to 1970. There was a 4-fold increase in population. The school enrollment from 1950 to 1960 tripled. And by 1965, we had class sizes of 32. That's 3-2. Yes, our predecessors met their challenges. And they should be remembered for the facilities heritage that they have left us. A heritage that we have enjoyed in the succeeding generation. They are indeed due praise for having built these facilities, and we must on an individual basis support them now, as they may have difficulties with the financial times out of us. 1998, we now have 19,100 people in town roughly. The student percentage has decreased to 20%. The taxes since 1970, the amount of money being raised by taxes has gone up 665%. And we have here tonight questions about replacing an old building, the oldest part of which is 71 years old, none of which meets the current code for schools, and adding again to the junior high school, which was the second high school in town. Now, one of the town's problems, as I see it, is having burgeoned as we did in that one generation, and then having rested for a generation as far as schools are concerned, all of these buildings are aging and they continue to require maintenance. And unless we spread out the time in which we replace them, if we just continue on, we're going to have to replace them someday all at once, rather than starting a cyclic renewal. Now, I'll grant you we're talking about a big cycle. We haven't done any substantial renewal in 28 years. And I will submit that it makes sense to renew and rebuild as we are proposing tonight, even though we do not have as many students in the schools as they did in 1965 when they were desperately trying to throw up schools to stay even. I would submit that we should not wait for the crisis, that we should work in a seasonable hour which is before us, and that in renewing and rebuilding it only makes sense to add additional space, and that the question of class size and class staffing is not before us tonight. I would submit that you should not vote against a school building proposal as a way of limiting staff. That is another decision at another time. Now, how will we be remembered? Will we be remembered as those prudent people who planned ahead and continued Acton's tradition of excellence in the sense of providing good space for our schools? Or will we be looked upon as people who were more concerned about our pocketbook at this point and willing to let the situation go until it is in crisis? We have a challenge. Those before us met their challenge. What will we leave for the others? I reiterate again that the Board of Selectmen recommends that you vote yes. Thank you.
As Mr. Friedrich prepares, I'd like to make one other housekeeping announcement. You notice we've turned down many of the lights, and the purpose was to try to improve the visibility of these boards in front so you could see the overheads and the points that are being made. We're planning to shut one more set of lights off here to my left and your right. These are mercury vapor lamps. Once they go out, we've lost them for at least a half hour, but that's fine because we might be able to read. And so we're going to take that opportunity. The lights in the back of the room will remain on, and I think there will be adequate light for us to move around. The other point I'd like to make is that if you feel the need, there are restrooms behind us, so feel free to use them as you choose. Mr. Friedrichs.
Thank you, Dick. I'd like to make it very clear that I am not here as a member of the Board of Selectmen. I am here as a citizen like you. As Doré said, the Board of Selectmen voted 3-2, and of course I was one of the two that I abstained. Wow, can't see anybody now. One of the questions that I was asked after the Selectmen took the vote was why I voted against this program. The fact is, I did not vote against the program. I abstained from the voting. The reason that I abstained from the voting was I didn't feel, two main reasons actually, I didn't feel I had adequate information. Adequate is, I think, different for everybody, but in my case I felt it wasn't adequate. And another reason was the programs and the projects were not black and white to me. And I felt that even though I was in a position to recommend or not recommend, I felt that I should put my time and effort into presenting information that will help you make the decision on whether you want to vote yes or vote no. So I abstained from recommending mainly because I felt that it was not a black and white decision. You have heard a lot of numbers tonight, and I really don't want to get into too much. I'm having trouble reading my notes here. Hang on a second. We'll go to the first slide. Okay, that's good. In the numbers, I'm actually kind of deviating from what normally was in the presentation, because one of the questions that I've been asked by many people is, what are overrides and what effect do they have? So I spent a lot of time and effort weeding through this and actually being tutored by the FinCom. So I thank John Prenderville and Tom Mackey and Bob Evans, everybody that helped walk me through this. And I'd like to just take an opportunity, since I've got 2,000 of you here, instead of 200, to give just a very brief explanation of what overrides are. And basically they fall into two categories. A debt exclusion override, which, can you read the slide or not? Okay, I'll read it anyway. The duration is limited to the life of the bond. What this means, it's like a mortgage. It's 5 to 20 years. This really has a small effect on the tax rate. In this case, it's 10 cents on the tax rate. For each $1 million of bond, it's only 10 cents on the tax rate. For instance, if you had a debt exclusion override and it was $2.5 million, spread out, that's $75 a year for a $300,000 home. Next slide. On the other hand, there's another override called a general override. What this is a permanent increase. The full amount is taxed in the first year, and then that full amount is increased by 2.5% each and every year for eternity. What this comes down to the first year is it's 60 cents on your tax rate the first year for each $1 million of override. As an example, a $2.5 million general override will produce $450 on a $300,000 home, and that increases by 2.5% a year. Summarizing, again, the same two. The debt exclusion is a 10-cent override. The general override is a 60-cent override, plus 2.5%. Next slide. The results of the two types of exclusions. The debt exclusion is $75 a year, and the general override is $450 a year plus the 2.5% each year. The reason I put both of those up is there's an ingredient of each in this chart, which is a reproduction exactly of the chart that was in the FinCom presentation. And this is the 2.5% scenario. I know you're confused by numbers of 5 versus 2.5 versus 1%. I won't comment on it other than the fact that it's a reasonable projection based upon the information that we have today. Next one. What we really need to decide individually is, do you want this? I guess we could all say that we want new schools and smaller school class sizes. I think that's a no-brainer. We all want that. Do we need it? I would say about a third of the people in town need it. The other, probably a third don't need it, and there's probably a third about in the middle. This is what makes it not black and white for me. Can you afford it? This is one of my big problems with recommending to you and telling you where to spend your money. I don't think I should tell you that. I think you should look at this and say, based upon the best numbers we can put forth, and I think there's very little disagreement. There's some minor problems, but there's very little disagreement in the numbers that were presented. Basically, if you want it, or you have a need for it, and you believe that these numbers are reasonable and are acceptable to you, then you vote yes for this program. If you do not need it, don't want it, or can't afford it, then you vote no. Thank you very much.
Recognize Herman Kabikoff. Herman?
Hi. As with Wayne, I am speaking as a citizen at this time. I am also a selectman and one of the two that abstained, but as a Board of Selectmen, we did in fact recommend, as has been explained. I have promised to spend no more than 120 seconds to 3 minutes to briefly address the concerns that I had with regard to the lack of information. Simply put, no project of this magnitude comes before us without alternatives. There always are alternatives, and when costed, those alternatives will solve the problem in a greater, a better, or a lesser form than perhaps the alternative that we end up voting on and considering here for adoption. The concern I had was that there were no alternatives given to us as solutions to the problem with the pluses and minuses, with lesser cost and perhaps even greater cost. It simply was given to us as an all or nothing proposition, And I was bothered by that. I asked for alternatives at the beginning of the process. I inquired with regard to the pursuit of alternatives throughout the process, and I have been discussing the absence of the alternatives at the end of the process. And when it came to vote, because I didn't know what I had to compare the alternative before us against, I simply suggested that I was going to abstain. So I thank you very much for your attention, and I
Mr.
promise to be brief.
Kabikoff, I'm going to have to call you. The points that Mr. Kabikoff is making are very relevant. However, they probably should be made as the motion is presented and we begin to debate the merits of that motion. I'll recognize Ms. Jean Seiflied, who is a member of the Finance Committee, speaking as an individual.
I am Jean Seiflied. I am on the Finance Committee. I've been on the Finance Committee for 3.5 years, and I've lived in town since 1975. I don't go back as far as Dore's charts, but I've been here quite a while. I am the dissenting voice on the Finance Committee, and I want to share with you some of my observations of what I've learned over the last 3.5 years. I truly wish I could be here to endorse this proposal. I have endorsed a number of building proposals in town.
Point of order.
Point of order, the microphone.
Sir?
Yes, you have a point of order?
Yes, I wanted to follow up on your last comment that I believe that if individuals are speaking as individuals, it would be most appropriate in the context of town meeting to approach the microphone when there's a motion on the floor, rather than entertaining dissenting views from the boards that just voted and made their presentations to town meeting.
My sense is that we should get on with the program. So, Jean, when you speak to the motions when they are presented on the floor. Yes, you did. No, there are other presenters in that. They're going to present the motions are presented. Let's make one other housekeeping motion. I'd like to speak to John Murray. John, are you there? I hope you can hear me. He's in the auditorium. He has about 500 or 600 more voters in the auditorium. What I want you to know, John, is that after we have had the opportunity to recognize citizens who are debating the issues, we will turn to you as well and give you the opportunity to offer some of the members who are visiting in the auditorium or participating in the auditorium to also have an opportunity to speak to the issue.
Thank you very much, Dick.
All right, let's begin. Article 1 of this town meeting. As Mr. Liberty is setting up, let me read this article. School committee motion for school construction renovation. It requires a 2/3 vote of the voters in attendance. Mr. Liberty moves that $21,350,000 be appropriated for constructing, originally equipping, and furnishing a twin elementary school, and for the removal of the McCarthy Town School from school use, including costs incidental and related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is authorized to borrow $21,350,000 under Chapter 44 of the General Laws or the Chapter 645 of the Acts of 1948 as amended, that the Board of Selectmen is authorized to petition the General Court for an act to permit the first principal payment on such borrowing to be not later than the 5 years from the date of issue, and the last principal payment to be not later than 25 years from the date of issue, and that the school committee is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out these projects, provided, however, that no debt may be incurred under this vote except up to $1,250,000, as to the new elementary school construction project for planning and other preliminary expenses until the Department of Education has included the town's application for a state school construction grant as to the project on its list of completed project applications, showing the priority assigned and provided that this vote shall not take effect with respect to the project until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, Proposal 2.5, amounts required to pay the principal of and interest on the borrowing authorized by this vote for such project. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been moved and second. Mr. Liberty.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. It was my original intention not to speak further than we already have, but I do want to make a couple quick requests. First of all, can we get one set of lights, because as a community we need to see each other and discuss this fully. Secondly, I apologize for the failure in technology. We do have some slides, and we will endeavor to put up the proposals so that you can read them, but I believe that they were read clearly and we can proceed. And finally, I want to express the heartfelt feelings of our entire committee. It is not our goal to limit in any way a full and open presentation and debate. It is our goal only to do this in an orderly and appropriate fashion. We are neighbors. We are a single community. We are looking to work together and discuss it together in the most appropriate way. And we will work very hard on the school committee to answer any question and discuss any issue that you have and any concerns you have. It is not our goal in any way to limit that debate. With that, we urge your approval on this First Amendment for the elementary school proposal. Okay, we're ready for this.
Do I hear comments? Pro? Comments against? Mr. Cadillac.
You're all set.
Didn't see you. You'll be next.
Good evening. I'm Charlie Cadillac. Technology. 19 Pollerview Road. It is now 8:36. I will not take nearly as long as the pro side has, I assure you. Hold your applause until after the vote. Well, sorry. First of all, I'm going to urge you to vote no, and you probably want to know why. The reason is very simply that this proposal is too expensive. It's unaffordable to many of our neighbors, to people who have lived here many years, to people of all ages that have told me over the last year and a half that they will have to move out of town if tax rates go up like this, and unfortunately, some of them already have. That's a problem, and it goes well beyond the dollar costs that we will also discuss a little bit. When we lose people such as these, the community loses. There is an intangible cost to them of having to move out of their homes, surroundings that they have been familiar with, lose their friends. It's a very difficult decision made reluctantly by all, but it's happening, and that troubles me, much more so than whether it's 5%, 10%, 29%. That's a real problem. Now, I want to make something else very clear, because the numbers get very confusing. What you saw Tom Mackey present was the result of many, many hours of many, many people trying to make their best estimate of what the tax bill increases will be over the next 5 years. And after much debate, coming to reasonable agreement. It's not the numbers I would have presented, but I'm not going to challenge Tom's numbers. They're good estimates. What they show is the tax impact of the whole project, and that's what really counts. I have to disagree with my friend Doré that we're only voting on the 2 articles tonight for the 40-some-odd million dollars. Technically, that's true, of course. But the reason that it's very necessary and pertinent to talk about the cost of the overall project is because if we vote in favor of these 2 articles tonight, we are implicitly approving the project. You have heard, by the project I mean the whole thing, including high school. You have heard Tom mention that right now, as the plan stands, 4 months from now in April, a very short time, we will be asked to approve a $2 to $2.5 million general override, and Wayne defined what that is, just to pay basically for the operating cost increases directly related to the school construction plan. The municipal side budget increases do not require any override. All of this is related to the school construction plans. $2.5 million is an additional 8% on your tax rate, so it all fits together. The tax rate on the proverbial $300,000 property would increase by roughly $600 next year. That's the cost, and all of these graphs that go up and go down, they're true, that's what the bond cost is, but we all know that we have had this kind of bond payback on every bond project that we funded in this town, and it does not mean that the property taxes drop in the far out years, never do. So those slides are interesting, but they're immaterial. They don't help the people who are looking at their tax bill and saying, can I afford to pay 20, 30, 40% more? Why do I say 40? You heard Tom Mackey say that the 5-year projection includes only the first small increments of the $45 million high school addition, which comes in the fall of 2004. These projections go through June of 2004.
Mr. Cadillac, I have to point out for you that we really are discussing the elementary school building.
Okay, thank you. And again, in my view, due respect to the moderator, it's all connected. And I will be much briefer on the second article because they both apply. But in my opinion, backed up, but I think Tom Mackey's projection, a vote on these articles will be interpreted as a vote for the whole thing. Therefore, we have to consider how we got there. Well, a lot of good people spend many hours working hard with the best of intentions to come back with a plan for the schools. I applaud them for that. I participated in some of it, not last summer, because that to me was a predetermined exercise given the conditions that were set out. We knew we were going to end up with this, a very expensive plan, a plan more expensive. I am now talking to Article 1, $21 million. That's more than was proposed last January, a special town meeting, which was subsequently defeated at the override. More because last January's proposal included renovation of the Merriam building, this does not. So even though the town defeated, for reasons that many people told me were cost, last January's proposal, here we are back with one that's even more expensive. How did that happen? Well, I think we need to understand how that happens so that we don't repeat this problem. It happens because during the considerations of the various proposals, the various options, at no time was the tax impact figured out. Nobody did it. Nobody asked a question. The only considerations on money were, well, is it 19 million or 21 million? What's the bond payback? And as Wayne explained, the debt exclusion overrides are the small part. The big part are the operating costs. Those questions were not asked. The answer was not available. The school committee and the Board of Selectmen voted to recommend these proposals without having that information. You've heard two selectmen say that. Furthermore, I know that sounds a little harsh, so let me explain that I'm not making this up. This building committee report, there it is, quite impressive, has in it, in its entirety, two brief sentences which say, well, we thought about the tax impact. That's the end, no numbers. The lamplighter, which you received just recently, says the cost is $95 for this article on the average. That's the average of this thing that goes up and down. True enough, but irrelevant, because that's not what's going to drive your tax rates up. I'm talking about this lamplighter. The yellow sheets that you get, same thing. It wasn't until last night, literally, that the FinCom was still working, Tom Mackey was still working on the final numbers of the presentation. It is a big step forward for this town to have this information while it's making this kind of an important decision. That's really important and very helpful, because everybody, and I agree with Wayne Friedrichs completely, it's your decision, but you have to make these decisions with full, complete, and accurate information. And at this point, reluctantly, I have to say that I very much disagree with the school committee's analysis of the numbers. As all of those involved know, many hours have been spent over the last few weeks trying to work out what the best projections will be, and Tom Mackey's 2.5% was the final conclusion. It's not very complicated. It sounds mysterious. I'll explain. These percentages that we're talking about are percentages of what is known as new growth on the tax valuation in town. That's when somebody puts up a new house, adds a porch, constructs something that did not exist before, the assessments go up, that brings in additional tax revenue. That helps the rest of us in our tax bills. Nothing else matters, because if valuation goes up because of higher market values, that's great, but your assessments go up simultaneously and it cancels out.
Mr. Kadlec?
Yes.
I'm going to have to interrupt. I feel that the babysitter challenge and the pressure of getting on with this vote is such that I don't hear you talking specifically enough I'd like to ask
Mr. Moderator.
I'd like to ask you to make a summation.
Mr. Moderator, we've been here for an hour and a half listening to the pros. I think I should have a few minutes to say the cons.
I think you have had.
You run the meeting. If you want me to sum up, I will.
Please.
I will sum up. I will sum up. Sometimes this feels like a hostile takeover. This is a secret ballot. Vote no. Don't make people move out of town. As my wife said, don't move away. Vote nay and stay.
I recognize Mr. Liberty of the School Committee for a point of clarification.
That's an opportunity I will not get.
Watch your wire, watch your wire. That's an opportunity you don't want.
There's a point of clarification on the floor, please. Go ahead, Mr. Liberty.
You have been very patient, and so I will be extremely brief. The school committee stands by the Finance Committee numbers, which show that no matter what assumption you make, we're looking at a 5 to 10% tax increment as a result of this project. These are the Finance Committee numbers. We take their numbers. We have a number of other points of clarification we could make, but frankly, I'm eager to turn this back to the town meeting, so I will hold those comments. Thank you.
You've been waiting patiently. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Greg Jarbo. I'm a 20-year resident of Acton, live at 5.
Greg, speak up just a bit. Scream into that thing.
Go up to the front. Now, that's an interesting concept. My name is Greg Jarbo. I've lived in town 20 years. I'm a former member of the Board of Selectmen, former chairman of the Board of Selectmen. I'm a little amazed at the proceeding tonight. We have some elected leaders of the town who refuse to lead, and we have some citizens who assume that they get to make presentations as if they were a duly elected town board. And I find that a little topsy-turvy. Maybe town meeting has changed in the 20 years that I've followed things. One of the points that was made this evening...
Let me respond to your point before you go any further and point out to you that two people were acknowledged this evening from the citizenry to make presentations. Mr. Kadlik is one of those, and the next speaker, Ms. Seiflied, is another. They came to me in advance, showed me preparation, and I acknowledged that they had done an exceptional amount to prepare for this meeting, so I gave them more than 5 minutes to allow them to make their point. So that's how that happened.
As a citizen of the town, I'll take my 5 minutes and stop. One of the points that was made is that there is this theoretical negative impact on people should the taxes increase. Let me indicate that there is an impact on tonight's decision on people who can't even vote, and that's any student who's under the age of 18. So we're here tonight as a community to make decisions on behalf of other members of this community, some of whom can't vote, some of whom aren't here. And I would hope that in the spirit of that we look at this as a community decision, not as a, well, if you have kids, then you can vote for this. If you don't have kids, you can vote against it. I have 3 kids in the school system, but the youngest is 9, and by the time the elementary school situation is addressed, it won't impact her, so it's too late. She's going through overcrowding now. But I also am here tonight as a taxpayer and a homeowner, and one of the leadership in this entire debate that I would like to acknowledge tonight is a leadership in the business community. There was an ad that appeared over the weekend in the Action Unlimited that was taken out by 4 real estate firms in this town. Carlson Real Estate, Century 21, York Associates Realty Executives of Eastern Massachusetts. And the headline says, "The room that adds the most value to your house isn't even in your home." And they urge a yes vote. That's the kind of leadership I would like to honor and recognize in this community, and I would urge my neighbors to vote yes on Amendment 1.
Thank you. I recognize Ms. Jean Seifleet, who is an individual member, elected member of the board, however the Finance Committee, however she'd like to speak as a citizen. Okay.
Thank you. And maybe I'll get a whole 5 minutes this time. I'm recommending a no vote. And the reasons are similar to the reasons that Charlie spoke to you about. It's simply not affordable. I'm going to recap on a few slides what I've learned in 3.5 years on the Finance Committee and share my concerns with you about the rate of spending in the school. Can't see it. Well, I apologize that the slide is
No,
not...
I apologize for you. I'm sorry. We just have to do the best we can. We have to be able to recognize the speakers. We still want to see the visuals, so those that are close to monitors get a very clear picture. Here, we're going to have a little bit more difficulty.
Okay. Current spending for the schools exceeds revenues. Every year, we overspend, and we have to dip into free cash in order to make up the difference. The budgeting practices of the schools are cost plus. They take last year's spending for a particular category and they add to it. It's very expensive. There's a lot of legacy spending in there that we need to go and take a look at, but we can't because we have an archaic accounting system in the schools. Now, the schools participated in the process of choosing a new accounting system. It's called pentamation. The town implemented it a year ago. The school system runs on an old PDP-11 system. It's RISTIS-based. Those of you who are technology people know what I'm talking about. It is very difficult to understand where the money goes. But it is also interesting how money gets found when there's a particular project that the schools decide they want to do.
Ms. Seifleet, this is a motion to approve a building budget for an elementary school. So we really have to stick to that topic.
Mr. Moderator, we're talking about school spending and heavy debt increases, and I want to discuss that. Now, as Charlie Cadillac
to the motion
said,
about elementary schools, please.
I'm getting there.
Thank you.
The constant tax increases that we see in Acton are really killing the town. It is driving people out of town. If you talk to realtors, they will tell you that they are not selling houses to anyone but young people with children moving into town, and people are leaving town as soon as their kids are out of school. That is a very self-defeating spiral. The more people that leave, the more new families we have that come in that have more children in the schools. Every family with kids in the schools consumes more in tax dollars than they pay. The building proposal is burdening the town with a very heavy tax burden. The debt repayment for these buildings will take priority over other spending. So any cuts that have to happen in the event that we have any slowing in revenue will come out of teachers and programs. We will have these buildings. And I submit to you that we need to think about the educational environment that we're providing to our children and the spending rate at which we're going. The new buildings, it's a great plan, and if it were affordable, I would love to stand up here and support it. But we currently have problems in our spending. We spend heavily on technology, as we're seeing tonight, and we neglect basics like books and maintenance. We bought a whole new fleet of buses, and we didn't repair leaking roofs. So I submit that there are some real priority issues in how the spending decisions are made. Another point that I really want to emphasize, and I will move along here, is that we really must be open to critical debate. Tonight you have heard hours of the pro argument and a very truncated version of the con argument. In the process of putting the school building plans together, the con argument or the moderate argument was systematically excluded. And I think that's a very big problem for the future of the town, that we need broad-based representation on these committees, not just the people who already endorse the proposals. So, I'll move to the next slide. So I urge you to vote no. I think a no vote sends the following message, that affordability is really important. There's just a limit to what we can afford. We simply have to set priorities in our spending. We have to manage our resources to achieve goals. We can't just add. And trade-offs are necessary. Charlie didn't get to present his data, but the data shows that if you take the number of classrooms in the elementary schools and the number of students and divide them, you come up with the number 22. So it is possible within our existing space to achieve reduced class size if we made that a priority, but trade-offs would be necessary. Finally, I will give the pitch about stopping the cost-based budgeting. It is simply not a fiscally responsible way to manage our resources. We must implement the new accounting system. It's simply inexcusable that we manage a system of this magnitude and complexity with an archaic accounting system. And finally, my opinion is that the school overspending is like a freight train headed off a cliff. We're already overspending. We're already over the cliff. When we add all of this debt, the weight of the train gets heavier and heavier. So I think we're heading for a train wreck. And the heavier the debt, the bigger the wreck. So I ask you to think hard about affordability, and to, in your consideration of your vote here, to really think about what the long-term impact of this decision is. Thank you.
I recognize Mrs. Stuntz for a point of clarification. Mrs. Stuntz?
In terms of class size and having space for children, we have 94 regular classrooms available to us. Those are all going to be filled. Those are all going to be filled next year. We will only have space for 14 classes per grade going forward. This will mean an average class size over the next 7 years of at least 25.3 in every single classroom, in every single grade. That means, in a typical grade, which we looked at 25 students, well, I'm still up there, okay. A typical grade, this is a second grade currently, this has an average, the second grade has an average class size of 25.7. There are 25 children in this class, 13 special needs children. This is the kind of class that we would be creating for every single child in every single room in all of our schools for the next 7 years if we do not build.
John Murray, do you have someone ready at the pro microphone? If not, I'll proceed. I recognize you. Yes.
Hello, my name is Sandra Whaley. I live at 1 River Street. Sorry. My name is Sandra Whaley. How's that? I live at 1 River Street.
Thank you.
I have a question for the Board of Education. I would like to know what we currently spend on our students on the elementary level per student. What is our cost per student, please? That's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
This is a graph of the K through 6 per pupil expenditure compared to towns that we normally compare ourselves. You will see Acton is there at just under $5,000. It goes up through Sudbury, Carlisle, Concord, and Lincoln. That is what we are currently spending in a per pupil cost.
Okay, thank you. It looks like we're really wasting our money here, folks. It looks as if a lot of hidden costs, our money is going somewhere and not into our students. What do you think?
I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but you were speaking at a pro microphone.
I am.
And it was the opportunity to speak.
I am offering a little bit of poetic license here. I am very tired.
Poetic license.
I am very tired of hearing presentations from people who believe that our educational system is just rife with money. We don't have the kinds of facilities that we need right now in our school system that we are spending so little on. We are getting a big bang for our buck currently, and for people to get up here and tell us, to insinuate that what we've been doing over the last 20 years that I've been around here is wasting money is just baloney. And I'm very tired of it.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to call a halt to your comments. I think we've got your point. I think when you want to speak negatively, you should speak at that microphone And so I'd like to take the next pro comment, if you would, please.
Mr. Moderator, I think
She is
perhaps...
It's not
I'm
clear
sorry.
to me, please.
I think that...
If Jesse thinks you're clear,
I think the auditorium understands my
clear.
point, but I think I better make it more clear to you. What I'm trying to
Okay.
say is that after listening to several of the con arguments tonight and having heard them currently many times in the past, those arguments leave us with the impression that we waste tons of money in Acton. And I'm here to tell you, as a person who volunteers in school, as a person who has 2 children in the school systems, that we don't waste money. We do not waste money in Acton. All you have to do is look at that chart and see. Do you get it? The last thing I want to say is this business about pros and cons that I've heard brought up a couple of times. Are the pros the boards? Don't we elect these boards? Do we elect these individuals who get up as, in effect, self-appointed boards with individual comments? We don't. We all get up, we can all stand at a microphone and give our arguments and confuse the moderator. or try to shed light on the arguments. If you're on a board, you've been elected to be sitting up there, you've gone through a process as a volunteer, these people aren't paid, night after night, meeting after meeting, listening to pros and cons every night, coming up with what we hope will be good presentations. This is not multiple choice. We can't sit up here and say, oh, give me the A plan, the B plan, the C plan. This is a volunteer effort, folks. And in my opinion, these people have done a fabulous job. There may be some gray areas that we may not be a little sure of, but is life black and white? I urge that we vote for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. You won me over. I recognize you, sir.
I assume this is a con microphone?
It is a con microphone.
Thank you. My name is George Johnston.
It's only the moderator that seems to have difficulty. The speaker found that she was really in the right place, but let's go on.
I live at 12 Billing Street. There's more to quality education than small class size. Quality education is a multi-dimensional problem, and all of those dimensions cost money. Now, some of the dimensions are, of course, class size, availability of qualified teachers, and I already addressed those in a letter to the Beacon recently. But there's another dimension, and that is the demanding new standards for teachers and students, which in Massachusetts is MCAS. Now, these standards are going to require expenditures for curriculum development, professional development, that's in-service teaching development, teacher development, and release time for teachers. How many classes a day does a teacher teach? And furthermore, educational materials, books, and so on. Acton may be about to make a grand gesture to compete with other districts on class size. Acton needs to compete on the other dimensions as well. Will there be tax resources available for these other dimensions if the measures before us today and next Tuesday pass? This is a question that we should all ponder very seriously. In closing, I would like to ask, is it better to have a qualified teacher with 30 kids or an unqualified teacher with 20? And I'm not talking about, I'm not criticizing the teachers here now, but I'm trying to look to the future in terms of the evolving standards. Within the last 2 weeks, I have had conversations with 2 school administrators in other districts talking about the plans that they have for ambitious courses and for, in one case, using the English language arts standards in MCAS to require elementary school teachers at an early grade to teach grammar And that, by the way, is something that will be tested in the 4th grade. So these other dimensions are important too. And I urge all of the citizens of the town here in this vote and also next week to consider those matters. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to John Murray. John, are you there?
Yes, I am, Mr. Moderator.
Not hearing John. Your point of clarification? Oh, he is. Okay, John. John, you're going to be next on the pro microphone. But before that occurs, Mr. Liberty wants to make a point of clarification. Huh? You're on? Okay. John, you're on.
I'll recognize the person at the front.
Hi, my name is Nancy Banks. I live at 76 Willow Street, and I would like to speak in favor of the proposal before the town meeting. As I listened to this argument, and I had the opportunity to participate in the process last year, and as I've listened to the debate, it seems to me that the issue we really need to focus on is how do we get the state to support more of the cost of Acton's education. Clearly, we are carrying an unfair burden. The Acton taxpayers pay more as a percentage of their education than almost every town in the Commonwealth, and yet we stand for it and we say it's okay for our children. And I think that some of the frustration that we all feel about these increasing taxes, we need to direct to the state, and we need to direct it loudly, and we need to direct it clearly, and we need to say to the state that a reimbursement rate of 63% is simply not acceptable, that the monies we're getting under educational reform are not acceptable. But in the meantime, we need to address the needs of our children, and this plan is the best way that we can do that. And I hope that you'll vote to support it, and also at the same time write a very angry letter to our representatives and tell them we want them to do something.
John Murray, could you give us a comment?
Currently, there is no one at either microphone.
Very good. Thank you, John. Mr. Miller? No?
No.
I misjudged. I'm sorry.
I'll recognize you.
Yes.
Go ahead. Introduce yourself and speak.
Dick Swenson, Newtown Road, Acton Center. You hear me now?
I can, yes.
Okay. I wrote a few notes, and I even remember my reading glasses.
You got to keep talking.
I wrote a
into
few
that
notes, and I
microphone.
even remembered my reading glasses, but there's not much light here, so I don't know how I'll do. But most of the points have already been made. I'd just like to point out that there stands the Miriam School as a monument, idle for 12 years, a monument to inept planning. We have ridiculous, costly, and ineffectual policies to keep class sizes to 20 or less. There's a lack of innovation. We have failed policies in supporting every development effort, rearranging zoning bylaws to suit every developer so they can build more and increase more, and now is the time to pay up for it. Well, unfortunately, I don't know how us folks that are retired or on otherwise fixed incomes are going to be able to afford to live here anymore. It's become a town only for rich yuppies. It's time to rethink the solution. One final thing, just say no.
Thank you. On the pro microphone, please. Speak from the center. Okay. Who are you, sir? Would you like to announce? Would you introduce yourself, please?
What?
Introduce yourself, please.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm Bill Combs, and I've lived in Acton a number of years, and I think we should reflect on the town that it does not attempt to live within 2.5. No attempt has been made by these people on either side to live within 2.5.
Sir, I'm sorry.
I believe...
Sir, I'm sorry. That is not a pro comment. I think I understand that to be a...
Well, you listen to the whole argument. No interruption. I have a short speech.
Please enlighten us.
I don't believe our warrant requests an exception. Right off the bat, we have an exception. There has been no attempt to program these costs within 2.5, so they never tackled the problem. Now, the town government, all these people, are spenders. Spenders of the first order. Just look at the new library. The new library is reckless spending. It's a Taj Mahal.
Sir, I'm
and
sorry.
Now let me say that now to this issue,
Sir,
directly to this issue.
I'm sorry.
Acton is looking at a $40 million expenditure for 2 schools.
Cut him off. Cut him off.
The interest...
The microphone is for the pro comment this time. The microphone is for a pro comment. You said that you were going to speak to the motion in a positive
I am, right now.
No.
Cut him off.
You have about...
Two schools with an interest payment of about interest and principal payback of about $3.2 million a year. And what we see here is that in the town government, we have $800,000 that is due just to new property coming into the town. We have a 2.5 increase that gives us another $800,000.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
On the pro microphone, please.
Sir?
Identify yourself.
See us? Sir, Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Good evening. My name is Tom Cates, 13 Long Ridge Road. I realize it's going to be a tough act to follow, but I'll try.
You're doing well already, so go right ahead.
I'm a financial consultant. I do that for a living. I look at things always up, down, left, right, and sideways. I have a saying, figures lie and liars figure. I can make you a chart that'll go up or down anyway. I try to break things down to fairly simple numbers because I'm a simple guy. As I looked at these numbers, it's $129 on average per year per house, average house, yada, yada, yada. That's 30 cents a day. 30 cents a day, 30 cents a day. I'm not going to give you the Sally Struthers speech. I'm not going to put up a bunch of kids with their pictures and their big eyes. I will tell you it's 30 cents a day. I will tell you, I look at things from a financial perspective. I got my MBA from the Wharton School, Donald Trump, Michael Milken. We look at investments. If I took that 30 cents a day and put it in a nice mutual fund, I was doing some rough numbers as we were talking here. 7 years from now, which is how long the average person stays in a house, I'd have $1,400, $1,500 in that nice mutual fund. If I did something else with it, I could build a new kitchen on my house, I could invest in a bathroom, we get 80% on the dollar. I put on a deck, I get 70% on the dollar. I'll tell you what, if you invest 30 cents a day in your town, in your school, and over 7 years, if the town property values go up 0.5% over 7 years, and we heard a gentleman earlier here talk from real estate agents how that matters more than almost anything else you can do with your money, that comes up to $1,500. If your town property values go up 1% a year over those 7 years, because of that 30 cents a day, that's $20,000 in property value. You could have $1,400 by saving your 30 cents a day. You could blow it on a cup of coffee. Well, you can't even get a cup of coffee for it. Or you could have 20 grand in property values increased by investing in your town today and investing in your schools. I will tell you one thing to a lot of the comments that have come here. I don't want anybody to move out of town. We moved here 6 years ago because of the schools. Last spring, when the last motion failed, my wife and I began looking in Concord, Carlisle, and Sudbury. We're young. We're not yuppies. We're trying to make ends meet. We got kids going through school. We're going to get them a good education. And I don't want old people to leave the town. I don't want young people to leave the town. I want us to do what's right for the town. I urge you to do what's right for the town, do what's right for the kids, and vote yes on this motion.
You do understand that's a con microphone? You understand that that is a con microphone?
I understand. I think fairly quickly it will be clear to all involved that I am against
Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Paul McElroy, 8 Valley Road in South Acton.
Excellent.
I find myself at a bit of a disadvantage starting off here. I view myself as a big picture man, and I prepared my presentation consistent with the type of presentation put together by the selectmen and the Finance Committee. I find prior speakers are constrained to speaking in a much more directed fashion. So I'd ask the audience to please understand that my comments are directed to the first article. And if you choose in your mind to extend them to other articles, you're certainly free to do so. You're certainly free to do so. My topic is myth. I grew up reading the great myths of world literature. I was shaped by them. These are the types of myth that we heard about from Joseph Campbell that defined and ennobled us. I wish to share with you tonight my views on 4 other myths of an entirely different kind, which at best may confuse, and at worst I will leave you to decide for yourself. Those myths are the myths that we have heard over the last few months and to some degree tonight of fiscal responsibility, a balanced approach, what I call 23, and pride. I was trying to summarize my thoughts about this, and I leapt back 40 years. I don't know about the rest of you, I love Calypso. There's a vibrancy to it, and I thought of it when I first heard it, training as a Navy SEAL in the Caribbean. There was a song sung by Harry Belafonte. House built on a sand foundation will not stand. Oh no, oh no. And I wish to talk to you tonight about myths and sand foundations. Fiscally responsible. I shan't go into that. Charles Cadillac has dealt with it beautifully, sound, well-reasoned. The key point I would like to make to you about Charles Cadillac is that he is a thoroughly good man and to be trusted. What I see is an ever-increasing, as he does, and more onerous tax burden. Gradually the town will change in an exodus, the poor first, middle incomes next, which includes me, only the rich left. What happens then to our precious property values, I ask you? I see nothing but plummeting. So, fiscal responsibility is really just a statement of those who wish to have the schools defined as they wish to have them. But that doesn't correspond to my wish. So let's be direct about this. So we create a fiscal foundation of sand. 2, balanced. The view is that somehow this is a balanced approach. I'd like to establish my bona fides as far as children are concerned. 40 years ago, when the early morning dew still lay upon the daffodils, unruffled by the line storms of life's eventide, my bride and I decided that 2 children would be appropriate. 4 children later, we stopped. We knew then that we were all there. One of those 4 children, magnificently educated in the Acton public schools, when those schools, including the elementary schools for all 4, were far more modest in their pretensions than they are today. On to magnificent colleges, taking on jobs with which their parents can take great pride. The system was good then. I believe without the actions which are being proposed now, it can remain good enough. Balance. Balance must be for all generations. That's why I led in with children. Must be for all generations, including honoring the wisdom of the elderly and their contributions. There was a horrible article in the paper which dealt with this issue.
Sir?
Yes?
I have to remind you that we had a 5-minute limit, and you have reached that point. Could you sum, please?
All right, I will summarize quickly. As far as balance, we've created a social foundation of sand. As far as classroom size is concerned, it is a mantra, and nothing but a mantra. It has no significance beyond it. What is the right size? Private tutors? I think probably, but we must adjust based on reality. And it's that mantra which results in this increase of 12 to 20% quoted in the presentation earlier. Pride. I was proud 25 years ago. Yankee pride with control of spending in a meaningful way. I have moved from pride to shame. And if this passes, I will feel shame. In conclusion, for misused to support a bad series of bills. These myths turn the solid foundation of Acton to sand. Oh yes, oh yes. Is it fiscally responsible? Oh no. Balanced? Oh no.
I think somebody's going to take my job away if I don't start doing it. And right now, I think my responsibility is to say to you, we've heard you, and we appreciate your voice, and thank you.
May I just, one sentence?
On the pro side,
Mr. Moderator?
next man at the microphone.
Are you using this mic, Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Are you using this microphone?
I am indeed, and I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't called anyone. You've been standing there for quite a while. Please take it.
Thank you, sir. My name is Edward Adelman. I live at 534 Old Stonebrook. As you noted, I have been standing for a while, and a lot of thoughts have been going through my mind. I'll start with my prepared comments, but I did want to conclude on a commentary about the process tonight. Specifically, in case we've forgotten, on the warrant article before us tonight to fund a new elementary school for the town of Acton. That's right. I wanted to comment somewhat about the comments made about costs, whether we build or not build. And I think it's very clear the taxes are going up. They have gone up. They probably will continue to go up. The point is, what are we investing in? And I would argue that the children are coming. We can plan for it or not plan for it. Tonight is an opportunity to plan for growth and enrollment in our schools. Right now, we have been doing rather reactive and rather extraordinarily expensive moves to accommodate these children. Look behind the Conant School, the McCarthy Town School, and the Douglas School, and you will see a fleet of modular classrooms. The prior gentleman and some other people who have spoken opposed to this motion tonight have said, gee, class size doesn't matter. It's not the class size, it's the classrooms. They're not there. We're teaching in corridors, we're teaching in the cafetoriums, and we're teaching in trailers. These costs are not reimbursed by the state. We pay 100% of the cost of the modulars. They are far more expensive to heat, cool, and maintain, and there are teachers in these classrooms. The operating costs are there, neighbors and friends. We are paying for the staff, we are paying for the heat. We can choose if we want to do it economically and in a manner that the state will support 63%. I suggest, out of frugality as well as efficiency, to support the school warrant before us tonight. I would further like to add that I resent very much the suppositions made by some prior speakers that there are issues here of class involved in this vote. I resent that. I'm a salaried state worker. I don't consider myself a rich person. I'm very much in support of this because it supports the future, nor does it support my children. My son is out of the elementary schools, and by the time any new bricks and mortar land, my daughter will be out of the Acton Public Schools. This is a vote, as Doré Hunter summarized very eloquently earlier tonight, this is a vote for the future of our town. Not my children, but the town of Acton. And that's why we have an open, free, democratic process, so we can speak tonight from our heart about our future. And I strongly support you to vote yes for the future. Thank you.
John Murray, do you have someone with comment?
Order from the overflow rooms. Moderator, that's not coming from our room. Yes, it is. It is coming from our room, and we love the speeches, but we would like to call the question. Yes. I'm sorry?
I have a number of people here who are standing and who would like to say something. I think in deference to their patience and perseverance.
Excuse me, we
the body to
count
vote.
too.
Then we will vote. This motion is not debatable, and it requires a 2/3 majority to pass. All those in favor of limiting debate at this point signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The motion passes.
Point of order,
I'd like to introduce Bill Caddy, who is the chief balloteer, who can tell us how we're going to do this.
Mr. Moderator, Mr. Moderator, may I have a point of order?
Yes, you can.
I wish to propose that this vote be taken as secret ballot.
It already has been passed as secret ballot.
Oh, I'm late? I'm sorry?
Good. It's all right. Bill, please explain.
First, could I have all the tellers to come forward to behind the stage here? I have 10 ballot boxes for this room and 4 ballot boxes for the auditorium. Let me explain to you.
Mr. Moderator, this is John Murray.
We're going to use the pink ballot. We're going to give a pink slip. And you have to come out and show not only your pink slip, but your orange tag. You must show both your valid orange card as a voter, plus bring only one, of your pink slips, either yes or no. And you're going to put it into the box. Now let me explain how we're going to process all of these people orderly into these boxes. I'm going to have on the bleachers, I'm going to have 2 boxes on the bleachers on either side. I'm going to have a box in the back for each row in the back. I'm going to have 2 boxes in the center aisles. You're going to have to get up one row at a time, come through and put your ballot into the box. All right? Return and going around in a circle, come out, put your ballot in, return in a circle back, and go back to your seat. All right? And then we'll proceed down the aisles. All right?
Are we ready, Bill?
Only bring one ballot with you. A yes or a no. All right? Dispose of the other one as you see fit. As soon as we get the tellers organized, we'll be going through the aisle.
Everybody, please understand that the doors are now closed so that everyone that's here is not leaving until we complete this vote. Thank you.